How was it when you first realized that, Yuvraj is a special child, and how did you process this information?
So, what I can say, like you said, motherhood is not difficult, but it is something that, young mothers, what they go through when they first have a child. But then when you realize that your child is not so-called, not performing, but is not doing what is expected of him in the time frame, that's when you start worrying and wondering why this is not happening. So when Yuvraj was born, he was like any other child, and we were enjoying him, and then suddenly the milestones, they were creeping up, and every time they were like, there would be people that would question me, like, how come he's not doing this and how come he's not doing that? My mom would constantly question me, and I would be like, he's different, and he'll do this. And it was denial initially, but when he was 1 year and 5 months, he started to get seizures. So that's when we were like, okay, there is something that is not right. So that's when our journey actually started. Dharmal and I were young parents, and for us, it was, initially we were numb. We didn't feel anything. We were just like making sure that the seizure stopped, and we were speaking to doctors and just going through the process. But when things settled, we realized that time was against us. We needed to make sure that our child got the best that we could provide to make him who he is to the best of his abilities. So that, of course, came many years later. And my brother once told me, he said that, that you're an adult, you'll manage, but you need to work on this child. And everyone around us knew the severity. I think Dharmal also did, but I always never gave up. I had hope. So for me, as a parent of a child with disabilities, one thing I didn't give up was hope. And I think that's very important to have, because when you get a child who is not following the same path as a regular toddler does, that's when you kind of feel that maybe this is the end for me, for my child. But when it came to me, I was like, no, I'm not going to give up, because in our generation, there's something called good quality therapies and education, which can change a child's life. Initially, I was working, like my sister laughs and tells me, I was Forrest Gump, who just ran, wore blinders and ran, and just did what he had to do. And I did that. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't processing. But as time went by, and many years later, the dots started connecting, and I started feeling like, okay, this is why this happens. This is why this happens. Initially, I just followed, and I went by the experts in the field. I didn't question them. All I knew, I know my child. I know what works for him. But what really mattered was that I had hope, and I was not going to give up.
Wow.
So for me, it was like not giving up, and there's hope. Wow. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I've just been through my entire journey, which I had kind of thought, for me, it was the past, and I had kind of kept it there, but I've just gone through it with you guys, and I'm just realizing that what was really important to me was I was not going to give up.